Now, the second case study is about a local outbreak. After the arrival of the first case, of course, we had some other cases getting into Hong Kong almost every day, despite all the screening measures that we put in. And then we emphasized through our press conferences that a local outbreak is inevitable. You're going to get it, okay, sooner or later. And we repeat it, often enough so people get prepared. And if we get a single local case, we will shut down all the primary schools, all the kindergartens, and so on. Again, psychological preparations. And indeed, the outbreak, the local outbreak came on June 11th, which was 40 days after the Mexican session. So at that particular day, June 11th, I was planning to do a press conference at 5 p.m. to introduce a new laboratory test. Okay. But then we learned about this school outbreak at 5:15. Okay, so it screwed me up. What am I going to do? Okay. And the lab says it will confirm this case around 7. Okay. And then the rest the following morning. So we ended up doing 2 press conferences within a span of 2 hours. And I cannot think of another precedent case. Okay. So it was actually pretty bad PR doing 2 press conferences within 2 hours. But we did not actually have another alternative. And the following morning the CE steering committee reconvened, and we had more cases in the school, and therefore we shut down all the schools. So the challenges were, you always have unexpected events, in your way. And it caused havoc to our planned press conferences and some other things. And then for the public reaction, do they accept closing down the schools? There could be panic, there could be anxiety, and the media was all fretting about it. And there were some collateral issues that we were not able to address, during the initial phases. How about reopening of schools? Okay, what to do after 14 days? Okay. Whether we allow other activities like summer classes and so on, and how about child support when all the children are staying at home. Okay. And of course, the experts fired at us. The children would go somewhere else, video game centers and so on, and then it would spread the infection there. And so, how we manage, we get the news out as soon as possible, okay? And we coordinate with EDB, who is giving us a lot of help, publishing guidelines and contingency plans for schools and so on, so that they know how to manage. And then the schools would remain open during that period for childcare. So parents could still bring the child back to school for childcare purposes. And in the communication, we forewarn all our actions, and then we set up a hotline to address funding inquiries. Okay? And then we work out the other stuff along the way. So final 2 slides. To summarize the lessons learned. Again, I cannot emphasize more deeply about top-level commitment and involvement. The decision-making machinery is really crucial. And then crisis planning always helps, right? And you have to put in all the command, coordination, communication structures, and have some kind of flexibility in executing the plan. And in Hong Kong, we need total transparency and frequent communications. Okay? The media is going to find out anyway, right? There is no secret in government. The best way probably is to designate a spokesperson who is conversant with the subject. That means you have consistency of message and consistency in the interpretation of that message. Okay? And you've got to have your internal communication sorted out very well, all right, to keep the whole team informed, which means the whole government, all departments, okay, down to the division level, the team level, and that is easier said than done. I find this to be extremely difficult, despite all your Blackberries or your SMSs. During a crisis situations, things just move too quickly to get everybody on board. Right? In our department, we have 2 briefings every day, morning briefing and evening briefing, to get everyone on the same wavelength. Okay? And then there is all these, command structures, all these daily updates and so on. But you can never be as quick as the events unfold. And I find this to be very challenging. And I really love to hear what the other experts to advise on this point. And of course, you've got to act quickly, even with incomplete information. All right? You cannot wait to have everything come along for you to make the best decision. You can only make the best decision during that point in time based on the information available. and you have to evaluate and adjust along the way. And this, I think, is extremely important as well, is to forewarn the public and bring along them with you. Okay? Whatever action you take, you have a warning before they actually happen. Okay? So that they get prepared psychologically, and then when the new measure came out, okay, it met with lesser resistance. Okay? So you're not just telling the people what you're going to do now, but also what you're going to do in future, a few steps ahead. Okay? And the precautionary tone is better than the no need to panic. Our lesson is, the more you tell people not to be afraid, the more they panic about it. That is Hong Kong. So it's better to cry wolf than to reassure too much, basically. Not to consider collateral issues and unintended consequences, which often happen. Okay? And to manage your key stakeholders. And I think most importantly is your internal team. For us, is the healthcare workers in the hospitals. The moment they call up the radio and complain about the work environment, they're not giving enough protective equipment and so on, we're in big trouble. Your internal team is the most important stakeholder to manage. So, of course, you have to consider your other sectors that are being affected, and also some opinion leading experts. It doesn't, hurt to give them a call beforehand. And of course, get ready for criticisms all the time. So, the last comment I'd like to make is, in these days, crisis management really take on an enormous dimension. Okay? The success or failure of government is often determined by how you handle a single crisis, unfortunately. Look at Katrina, look at Moracle. It's the same story all over again, right? Whereas the long-term planning, the services, they seem to fade into the background, right? People don't care much about it in terms of the focus is concerned. So I think it's unfortunate, but that's how real life is, that's reality. So I think crisis management these days is not just about the crisis, it's about the politics, it's about the government, and so on. So I think it's really important that we get prepared and we know how to deal with these situations. So with that, I'd like to end my talk and perhaps maybe answer a few questions later. Thank you very much.